Hello, I'm Dr. David Rosensweet, and it's 2 o'clock on Thursday, and it's that segment of I Wonder Doctor, where you can call in and ask any questions you have about your emotions, your mind, your life, and stress, because we all know that stress and how we respond to it, really, that's the key, relates very deeply to health and healing, or not. And if you have any questions, please call 888-502-8886. Now, I wanted to start by telling you an experience that I had. It had been a period of my life where I was working a lot and seeing very little of Kim. I'd come home late for dinner, and I'd be tired, and we'd wake up early in the morning to go back to work, and it puts a strain on a relationship to not see each other and spend time with each other, and to be tired when I was. And I knew I wanted to do something significant about it, just to break the train. So I set up that she and I could disengage from the world entirely by going on a cruise together in the Caribbean. And I set that up, and there we were. Oh my goodness, it was working. We were a couple days into that cruise, nothing to do, no way to connect to the mainland that I was willing to choose, and just to lay back and enjoy each other and talk and eat meals together and dance. It was wonderful. And on the third or fourth morning, we get up to go have breakfast on the back deck, looking out at this huge oceanscape. It was just beautiful. And we both noticed in the horizon that for the first time in a couple days, we saw something else. It was a cruise ship, and it was first far in the distance, and then it was coming up on us. And Kim said to me, look at that. We're racing. The two cruise ships are racing, and these are these huge ships. And I smiled. And she said, look at that. He's catching up with us. And I went, well, honey, I mean, really, they're not racing. Cruise ships don't race. And she said, no, they are. You can tell. Look how they're going. We're on the same trajectory, and they're coming up on that other ship is coming up on us. And I started, who knows what overcame me, but I thought I was behaving as if this was wrong, and this is the bad thing for her to be saying, and it's not accurate. And I started to get a little wound up tight inside because I seemed to have to be right. And I said, no, cruise ships don't race. Maybe you've been there before in one way or another with your spouse, your family, your coworker, your friends, where something that seemed insignificant at first, within a minute, is turning up to be a point of significant stress. Well, there I was at the crossroads because I was ramping up inside, and I could feel it ramping up. And there was two possibilities there, because I've been down this path before. I could take the road to the right, so to speak, and get super upset and really get it accurate and prove my point that these were not cruise ships racing. Or there was another choice. The other road would be, somehow I would pause and come up with some other different way of behaving in that moment. And this was a triumph. I did it. I caught myself in motion like I had leaped off a cliff, and I grabbed onto something to stop myself from falling. And I'd like to talk about what I did there, but the thing that happened was I was able to rein it in, and things went through my mind like, what are you doing? Does it matter whether they're racing or not? Are you absolutely certain that you were right? And I did one of those moments where I caught myself. I apologized to Kim. Whenever those occur and I'm earnest, Kim lets go faster than any other human being I've ever known. And off we went back into enjoying the cruise situation. And what goes on in those moments? I mean, they've got a lot of names, and one of them is we get triggered. Well, what does that mean? It's like our reptilian brain comes into full-blown action. A primitive part of our brain is what I mean, that senses grave danger, and it just acts. In fact, part of the mental part of that is it might tell itself a story of there's a boa constrictor about to squeeze you into pieces, or there's something horrible is about to happen to you. And we behave like we were in a primitive, like we were in a saber-toothed tiger fight or flight thing. I know I've mentioned that many times because that's the classic situation. And it just triggers off a bunch of primitive biology that does give us great strength to fight or flee. Or, how did I rein it in? I relied on a different part of my brain called my prefrontal cortex. And how I got there, and maybe you've heard this before, well, someone would say, when you're stressed, take a deep breath. Well, I want to give you a little detail about what that does. There's an accoutrement to taking a deep breath. It's taking the focus of your mind off of where it was and onto breathing. So that what you're doing is you're breathing, and while you're breathing, your attention is on the breathing. Air coming in through your nose, air being exhaled out your mouth. You're paying attention. Your attention is sensing your own breathing. Now, if you do that, it takes your mind and your consciousness into the present moment. And what that can serve is it can take you out of the crazy stories that can be going on in your mind, or the dysfunctional stories. Like, for example, going back to the cruise, she's telling me that to really just torque me around with some story that I'll believe, and she knows I'm sensitive about those things. Or she just doesn't understand that I understand these things, and I know that they're not in a race, and she's not respecting me, and I never get any respect. And this story, which could have dated back to my childhood, or 5 lifetimes ago, or 18 relationships ago, the past, my mind is in the past, or I'm projecting into the future that she's just trying to harm me, or she doesn't respect me, these mental and emotional conclusions, because they're not just thoughts and sentences. There's a lot of emotion associated with this. So taking a deep breath and putting my attention on the breath shifts me out of the past or the future, takes me into, I'm choosing to focus my consciousness on my breathing. I also focus my consciousness on my body. I feel my body. It takes me into the present moment. The primitive brain doesn't do well if it's taken away from its scary stories that it's telling itself. The prefrontal cortex does really well with being present. So it's a presencing ritual. It's getting in the actual moment. Oh, I'm in myself. I can feel my breath, I can feel my body, I can feel the energy in my body. A wonderful technique to bring us into what's actually happening. And again, that can take us out of emotional reactivity, fantasies of what detrimental and scary things are happening. It's using there's a lot of techniques that one can use when you find yourself going off the rails emotionally. That's one of them. That's the one I want to focus on today. You're concentrating your focus on now, on what's actually taking place, on your breath. It's a great one to catch your attention, on feeling your body and feeling the own energy in your body. All of a sudden, that breaks the circuit of the exploding stress chemistry and allows you to quiet down and be present and admit the truth and apologize if you need to, and turn those exhilarating, painful moments into a learning experience where you're building the muscle of dealing in a creative, safe, positive, nurturing way when you confront a challenging or stressful situation. Does wonders for your own self, for your own the safety that you provide for your own self. It changes what could be a harsh impact on someone that you really care about, and it makes you a safer person to be with. It's the kind of thing that builds trust and builds relationships. And the main thing in that moment, on that cruise, mission accomplished, I grabbed myself and took myself into the wonderful thing, that the wonderful and sweet and peaceful and kind situation that we had developed for ourselves. So, choice alone can get you out of an emotional cascade. And sometimes I'm kind to myself in those moments. Once you trigger the adrenaline, and once you have already said some rough words, you can slip into things like guilt, and you can be riding that adrenaline chemistry. So one of the things that I'm often, and this is just elaborating on that particular event, I don't know that took place there, I caught that one pretty early. But sometimes when you're in the deep end, you've said the harsh thing, you've got the adrenaline flowing, you start being upset with yourself because you know you did the wrong thing, so guilt is thrown in there. I'm spacious and kind with myself. I have to be. I have to admit to myself the truth that, oh my, I just went off the deep end. Okay, I'm going to keep it contained within myself. I'm going to cut down on further harm. And once I contain myself enough, even if I have to go silent, I reach a point where things start quieting down, and I can say to whoever I did this to or with that I'm so sorry. I went into one of those primitive, hurtful spaces, and I know that that's harsh to be with. And you can give a genuine, from the heart apology, and those kind of communications can go a long way to help reverse a harsh thing that you did, and help build trust. These things that we do in relationship, moment by moment, day after day, we're either building trust, building safety, building communication, or we're injuring it. So it has long-term implications, and it's a long-term project, and this is the great work. Why not learn how to be a loving person, being a safe person? So, here we are. It's Thursday afternoon. If there's no calls, to 888-502-8886. I'll call it a day for today. It's always good to be with you. I Wonder Doctor, in which this segment at 2 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, we're live. We take your questions. We take questions that have come in by the email. And we're talking about emotions, mind, life, and skills and tools that you can acquire and learn to improve how you navigate in your life to where you just get more beneficial, more creative, and more successful. It's fun to heal. I'm Dr. David Rosensweet. It's been good to be with you.